Good evening. How are you? How is everyone tonight? Please leave a comment. I need to know that you're here. You know, sometimes the sharing gets crazy. But welcome back, Creators Hangout. We took a couple weeks hiatus. We haven't been doing these for a bit. We kind of switched our whole thing because we weren't live. Granite State was offline and we took a break. We're allowed to do that. But we are back tonight. Tonight is an exclusive program, though, unlike the normal ones that we do. For the next series, we're going to be doing just collectors together. Oh, in fact, I have the wrong logo up. I got to get that logo up. But we'll fix that in a minute. But we are tonight with Cthulhu's Hard to Spell. With the crew from that, we've got a couple of the creators here. Two of my favorite creators are in here. They've teamed up together, and then we've got the big dude himself, Russell's in the house. So let's get everyone in one at a time and introduce everybody. So let's start with the one I'm married to. Let's start there. Hey, babe.
Hi.
Hi. How are you?
I'm good. We're in the same house, and it's like I can hear you across the house, so it's a little weird. But
is it because I talk too loud?
Good to see you. I missed you.
I missed you too. And you are in this Cthulhu is Hard to Spell with a wonderful friend of ours, Emily.
Hi.
Hi, Emily. Emily, how many projects has she worked on? She's worked on Broke Down. Mm-hmm. She worked on Cthulhu Invades Oz, and she's on Wonderland. Did you do anything for Voodoo yet?
I'm not sure. I think I did the one cover for the Collective. I don't know if that counts.
Yeah, you did the Collective, but that's an Orange Cone adjacent project. Yeah. So Emily's been doing tons of stuff with us. She's 21 in her own mind, but really, what are you, 15 now?
I'm 16.
16 now. Man, we knew you when you were 12, I think, right?
I think so, yeah. I
knew you since you were like 9 when we were in line together. And then the big man himself, Russell, is here. How are you, Russell?
Hi. How are you?
Good.
Thanks for having me.
We're going to do a creator hangout tonight, talk about the book. I'm going to talk about everybody's in it. And there is someone in my stream here that I don't know. So there's someone in Indie Comics that I don't know that I want to meet. Who the hell are you, Eric? And why are
you? Yay, Eric.
I'm sorry I'm late.
No problem. Who are you? Tell me about yourself.
I'm Eric. I usually work with Russell on stuff. I don't know what you want me to know.
He's worked for Scholastic and NASA and a whole bunch of people.
I work on Lucifer a lot. What else I work on? Work for Archie Comics for a long time. I work for Talking Talk. I work for everyone, dude. Like
nice.
A lot.
Well, Eric is clearly someone I needed to know.
Yeah, and he's been my artist for the Cthulhu, for the anthology, for the Wannabe Press anthology series since the beginning back in 2017. And before then, so a little piece of Wannabe Press trivia is we used to have webcomics. We started by syndicating webcomics. And Eric was one of the first webcomics that we ever syndicated, along with Nick Torres and a couple of others. So I've known him for like literally as long as Wannabe Press has existed.
Wow, that is a long time. How long is Sebastian? Does anyone really know anyone?
No.
That's deep.
I don't know what I'm doing here.
I know about it. And I'm gonna switch out. Hold on. Let's do an official switch out of the branding here. We gotta fix this. This is not a Cthulhu Invades Wonderland background. This is a Wannabe Press panel, so we got to get Wannabe Press up there. Let's change out that logo. I'll change out the backdrop in just a minute. But first, before we start anything, before I ask any questions, I want to take a look at the quick Kickstarter. Okay, do you guys mind if we take a look at it real quick? Because that's what we're here, right? That's what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about this thing. I'm going to let you do a quick pitch, Russell, if you don't mind, for everybody, and we'll talk about it for a minute. And if you haven't heard about this book, please let Russell know so he can figure out where he's not marketing to, because he needs to know.
Yes. So Cthulhu is hard to spell. This is the third volume. We've been on Kickstarter with it since 2018. Easily our best-selling book, and it's cute stories, funny stories, scary stories. It's basically stories about the gods and monsters of Lovecraft. So that's where the really differentiating part is there's like infinite short story collections, anthology collections, both by H.P. Lovecraft and by people who've been influenced by him, that follow the horror style of H.P. Lovecraft, which is often creepy person is in creepy town, meets creepy cult trying to do creepy thing, and then like chaos ensues. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, that's a great setup. There's like, I mean, it's time tested for 100 years. But what there's not a lot of outside of the Chaosium, I think it's Chaosium, the Cult of Cthulhu, the Call of Cthulhu series. Aside from that, there's very little about the gods and monsters themselves. And that a lot of that is by design, because Lovecraft believed the gods to be unknowable, and if you looked upon them, you would go crazy. So like they don't play a huge role in the story, and the mythos part of it is kind of scattered and haphazardly put in certain books. And often if you miss reading that story, you will just miss like a whole huge part of the Lovecraft universe. So this goes kind of from the origin story through 106 other stories about the gods and monsters, from cute to scary and everything in between. And they can be horrific, they can be cute, they can be silly, but the point is that they will feature strongly the gods and monsters. And hopefully after you read them, you will be able to associate those gods with what you see in Lovecraft's work.
Wow, that's a long thing, but so many creators have been on this, right? Like, if anybody's been in this book, they've submitted and been part of it, which I think is really, really cool.
We've had Paul Jenkins, who is a Spider-Man writer. Well, I mean, he's done so much stuff, but like the thing that I know him from is his famous run with Humberto Ramos on Spider-Man. We've had Ray Anthony Height from Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. We've had David Pepos, who's the new writer for Savage Avengers and Moon Knight and Elektra, and Trina Robbins, who was the first woman to draw Wonder Woman and a legend in her own right outside of that. But yeah, I mean, it's been pretty. You were a part of it. I tell you the story of how you became part of the anthology quite a bit, because it's like an odd way to become part of an anthology compared to like most people. And yeah, obviously everyone who's on this stream, and it's been a very satisfying experience, I will say, as far as indie, as far as like rejuvenating and not establishing, but like validating myself as a creator and like as an editor. Like the amount of immense talent who's worked on this series is crazy, and the fact that Chris Simon has helped me edit the last 2 volumes it's been a very special part of my career. Annoying and hard and stressful, and makes me want to pull my hair out a lot of days, but like also, especially once it's all done and we're at like this point, just incredibly wonderful to have worked with so many amazing talents over the years.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll definitely go into my story, because I like to tell Heather, that she's the only one who's got accepted into Cthulhu Invades. Cthulhu is hard to spell. She got accepted. I was denied. She was accepted. Like, I got in later. I worked my way in, right?
Well, so I tell your
Hamilton, I wrote my way out, right? Like,
I tell your story a lot because I've been on a lot of panels about anthologies, and people ask what makes a good pitch, and I'm like, and I have to be like, well, like, a good pitch doesn't mean a good story, because so much of story is execution. And Travis pitched a story about the Cats of like a modern day retelling of the Cats of Ulthar, and we already had Megan Hutchinson do a Cats of Ulthar story in the first volume. So I was like, I don't know, this kind of feels like the same, like very similar to her story. And so I was like, nah, I think we're going to pass on it. Then he made it. He made the story, and he just one day he posted it online. I was like, shit, like this is totally different than what I thought it was going to be. And so a lot of stories just require execution. And honestly, the fact that you get rejected or accepted, because sometimes it goes the other way. Sometimes you'll accept someone and be like, what world, like what pitch did I read and what happened in this story? So yeah, rejection or an approval, like hopefully those things line up, but often they don't. And how you were initially rejected and then after accepted really hammers home to me all of the time when I get rejected from anthologies. Like you can't rely on that as the barometer of like whether a pitch or you are good as a creator.
Yeah. When I talk about that, because I've talked about it in panels and other stuff, is the story worth telling? Because if it's worth telling, do it. Don't let someone tell you whether or not it's worth telling, right? You decide whether or not that story is worth telling. I felt that story was worth telling. Whether or not you wanted it or not, I felt it was worth telling. So I told it, right? And then when you saw it, you're like, oh, that is worth telling. Let's go ahead and add it, right? It helps when it's done too. It also
taught me that like if you trust the creator, if they make good work and you like that work that they do, like you like their taste, you should probably just trust them that it's going to come out okay in the end, even if and that we did that sometimes on this anthology. I was like, I don't know, like this is a very weak pitch, but I was like, but I love this person's work, so like I'm just gonna. Like if the worst case scenario is I have to pay an $80 kill fee or $100 kill fee or whatever to have it, like I'd rather have it in case it is amazing, like what Travis's story ended up being, than like rejecting it and not having it in the anthology at all, and then miss the potential of seeing this person work. And it's kind of a very fine line you have to walk with being an editor. I'm assuming, at least I don't know. For me, it's a very fine line between like trust and like reservation. I don't want to say reservation, but like you have to part like at the same time be like incredibly risk taking and incredibly risk averse, like almost simultaneously. And some decisions are like both of them simultaneously.
Yeah, no doubt. So let's start asking the creators, see what stories they did in this one. So just so everybody's aware, we are at $27,404. We need to reach 30,000, so we're about 3,000 away, or 2,500 ish. We have 526 backers. Now, if you're watching this, and I know there's a few of you watching this because I can see how many people are watching this, we do have a few. Ask questions of these people. They're here to get questions asked. That helps everybody. B, if you haven't backed it, check it out. Not only do I recommend backing it, I also recommend the audio commentary. One of the things that Russell does is an audio commentary through the whole thing. I've actually borrowed that idea and I use it on mine as well. He does it, and what I love about Russell's versus mine, I bring everybody in and let them talk and do the whole thing. But Russell is very intimate about talking about what he loves about it and it being his creation. And I think that's on some level better. I get nervous and I want other people to talk.
Yeah. And I think that I should probably bring more people in. So like, you never get it right. You can never think you did it right.
So Heather and Emily, tell me about your story. Tell me about what happened. How did you guys get it working together? I'm excited about it. I've read it several times. I love it. So tell me guys about it.
So when I heard the theme of the book and this battle royale, right? So I really love game shows. And so my first thought was it's either going to be something that is going to be like a game show related, or I don't know, an epic rap battle or something, because these are the things I think about all the time. And so for me, it was just like, okay, this is easy to come up with this idea. And I had Emily in mind right away, just because she had recently done a story, actually Travis's story for Cthulhu Invades Oz. And she's done other work with us, and she's just really awesome and talented. And I know someday, Emily, like you're going to be so famous, like in the artist realm that, I can be like, I worked with her back then. And so I just knew like your art style would be so cute and fitting for this idea that I had. And then you were just like, yeah. And so I submitted it. And at the time, I didn't really know Russell. I knew like of the work that you had out. But I thought that you were like closer friends with Travis. I didn't realize because, Travis is friends with everybody. That's just Travis. He loves everyone. But I thought that you guys were like a lot closer. And so since he was in the last volume, when I got accepted into the book, I was like, oh, I think I just got accepted because I'm your wife. And Chuck was actually with us, Chuck and his wife, Wendy. They came to visit Florida and we were all out. And Chuck and Travis at the same time are like, oh no, that's not how Russell works. Like he will, like, if he doesn't like it, he's not going to accept it. He's not going to like jeopardize his book. And so, I thought that it was really cool and I was really excited. And then we just really put it together. I mean, it just came together. Like Emily needed a little bit of guidance because there's like this generation gap, which is so amazing, and that's what makes her so special. But like for me, Family Feud, like I grew up on Family Feud, and Emily didn't really know Family Feud that well, and so it was little things remembering like, okay, take a step back. Like she doesn't know what the game board looks like. I'm trying to explain it like, oh, everybody knows what the Family Feud game board looks like because in our story, it's the gods of humanity versus the Cthulhu gods, right? And so that was just like, okay, she doesn't understand what all this is, and it just like I took a step back and was able to like describe things better, maybe send a couple pictures, and it just really came together, and she got what I put down, so it was fun. I really like it a lot.
I would definitely say my favorite part of working on the whole thing was designing all of like the old gods and everything, and especially designing the host of the show, because I absolutely love like old glamour, and I wanted everything about him to seem so glamorous, and I just loved like every second of designing him and everything, and every single time I drew him, I immediately just had like a picture in mind when you like wrote down the script. I just like knew. It was so much fun.
You're muted, Travis.
You're on mute.
Sorry, I was muting just in case Heather could hear me in the other room. So I wanted to say, just go to the chat and say hey to everybody. Hi, Wendy. We all love Wendy here. Wendy Gale, Chuck's wife. Johnny. Hello, Johnny. Johnny's a frequent when I go live. Wendy, there's plenty of clips on YouTube. I think she's talking about Prices,
yeah.
Not Prices Right. I can't. Family Feud. Jerry, hey, who are these cool folks? Hey, Jerry, how are you? I was sad that I didn't see you at the comic store today. We see each other like 50% of the time. And Travis. Oh, savage.
Ooh.
Is that bad? So, Russell, what was it like to get this story and get? Is Emily the youngest person who's worked on your book?
Oh yeah, absolutely, 100%. Like, and I will say that I remember the first time that Emily did a thing for one of your books, and like the style of her art has become so much more. Like she's developed so much of her style in like the couple of years that I've been able to like. It's kind of incredible to think that, and this happens a lot with creators. I see you see it a lot with like people who've been in anthologies a lot at the beginning of their career. You're like if you look at Angela Odling's work, similarly, like just the style evolves so quickly and so rapidly. It feels like every book that she's been in, I felt like was a different it was like a different style. And so it was really cool to see how it evolved. I look forward to seeing how it evolves in the future. But one thing that I'm very cautious about is giving bias to people who I know. And so what was nice about having Chris is she doesn't know anyone that I know. Like like she comes from a very different, like she comes back. She used to work at Shadowline. It's like she comes from like a very different era of creators and a very different like set of creators. So I was able to she goes through first. And she like rates them and she like says, and we have like oftentimes we'll have like a yes, absolutely no, and we agree. But I want to make sure that like I'm not giving preference to anyone because the book is the most important thing, and I have for sure lost friendships because of not allowing people into a book for multiple times. Like I've gotten like yelled at about like people being like, I don't understand what I have to do, and I don't have an answer. I'm just like, it didn't fit this time of these books. Like I don't like the aesthetically, or like just our things don't vibe. Like I don't like, it's not about you. It's in service to the book. Like every single person on every single book that we do is in service to the book, and that book is in service to the fans. So like I'm putting together the best book I can, and Chris, not knowing many of the creators, now she knows some, obviously, because we've worked together. She's worked together with a lot of the creators, but outside of that, she doesn't know the creators enough to like bend the rules for them, and that's really gratifying to see. The other thing that's gratifying to see is Lovecraft is not a good person. Like historically, not a great person. So diversity has always been important to me. But for this book, it was incredibly important to have marginalized creators like be the majority of this book. Whether it's BIPOC or LGBT or women, or like not white guys, basically, not white cis white men. And it's been very hard the first couple of books because of Cthulhu, because of Lovecraft being like a misogynist shitbag for most of his life. In fairness, in his letters, he does recant stuff in the end. So like that does give him some like saving grace at the end, but still for like 95% of his life, like he's very not good person. And so it was very important for me to focus on like getting diverse opinions. Also, just because like the thing that I love about Lovecraft is less the work, although I love the work, and more the fact that how it's influenced everything, like everything from like Owl House to like The Abyss to In the Mouth of Madness and Jacob's Ladder. Like he's just everywhere. And as a creator, it's kind of fascinating because he died alone, like and somehow friends like carried his work and proselytized his work for 100 years. And like you kind of have to be a creator to like appreciate just like that doesn't happen. Almost always, 99.9999999% of the time, if a legacy is carried on, it is carried on by a spouse or a child or a cousin, someone with blood relations. So to have like Robert E. Howard and other people like pick up this legacy is incredibly rare. And so what I wanted to do was not just show Lovecraft's work, but show how different people have been influenced by him. And you have to show, in order to have a bunch of different people influenced by him, you have to show a bunch of different kinds of people with different lived experiences, like be influenced by him. You know, like it's great to have Generation Z humans in the book because like it's a whole nother generation of people. We've had like boomers and Gen X and millennials and like different things. And I spent a lot of time, especially in the first book, being like, please, I know he's a shitbag, but like, please, like, come into this book and show me a different take on one of the gods. Like, it doesn't have to be a positive take on Lovecraft, just like a piece of the, and like, so our goal was 50%, like 50% of creators have at least somebody marginalized on their team, if not the entire team is a marginalized group. And so it was really hard that first time. It was pretty hard the second time. This time it was easy. Like it was easy. Like we didn't even have to think about it. Like we did usually we do our first pass and I'm like, well, like this is really white dude heavy now. Like we need to take some stories out and like remix some of this stuff. Not to bring worse stories in, just different stories. Like there are stories that were like all on the fence. And so with this story, we finished it and it was like 65% of people like had fit our criteria without doing anything. And so overall, I say that because it's so exciting to me to have a thing that I've been talking about for for over 5 years now realized, which is that if you spend the time fostering a actual not lip service desire to see representation in your work and you follow through with it over and over and over and over again for a long enough period of time, like it will eventually happen because like you will have, and now we've done 4 books and having the people who've been in all 4 books like carry over makes it easier. But literally just seeing that like, oh shit, like Russell hired Chris at his own expense to like make the editorial team more diverse. And he and like they brought in all of these diverse creators. Like maybe they're not just saying it lip service wise. Maybe they really mean it. Like over 5 years, like it really moves the needle. And that's not specifically talking about Heather and Emily's submission because I don't remember what happened in their particular submission. It is just like I'm very excited for like that. Like I am in the minority on this panel. Like that's wonderful to me, especially because it's a panel about Lovecraft and like Lovecraft. You know, he's bad. He's a bad dude. Like not like bad dude is in like criminal bad dude, but like not a person you want to hang out with every day, like and get coffee with.
He may have been disturbed based on his writing.
Well,
I mean, what do you expect? I mean, he did write Lovecraft. I mean, about demons and monsters. I'm not expecting puppies.
Yeah.
So, Eric, I wanted to talk to you because we haven't talked about it to you much. So this is your story. So you wrote the Battle Royale, the main cover story.
Well,
so you're the art of
yes,
Russell,
yes.
you're the art. Sorry. So what's that like? So this is new for you, right? You don't normally, Russell. You for 2 and 1. There's not really a main story, right? Like that's the cover and stuff. So this is kind of a new take. What was that like? How and why is it different?
You want to take this, Russell, or should I start?
I really love you to start. I just talked for like 5 minutes about nothing. So
Russell tells me that the first problem that we have on the other 2 anthologies was that the cover there's no story, that echoes the cover. And he showed me this and he was like, oh, we need something that's a battle royale. So at the same time, I have been doing a lot of work with AEW. I have been doing a lot of work with WWE and with a lot of indie wrestlers. And I said, I know what we're going to do. We're going to do like an actual wrestling match. And then he says like, oh, great, let's do like 8 pages. It's like, no, let's do 12. Like, screw it.
Yeah, he did say that. I sent him a script for 8 pages and he's like, it's not big enough. I want it to be bigger. And I was like, I mean, all right, dude, like 12 pages is a lot of pages, but like,
it was a lot of pages. It was a lot of pages.
Yeah. And he's right. Like it really needed 12 pages.
Yeah. And so basically he just threw gods at me and stuff like that. And I just went balls crazy with it. Like if you see the story, like if one of the gods looks like an actual wrestler, it's because they look like an actual wrestler. Like, like I even contacted people like to see if I could use their likeness. Like Vishnu, if Vishnu looks like Bret the Hitman Hart, it's because he looks like Bret the Hitman Hart. shark one. If he looks like Andre the Giant, it's because I drew him like Andre the Giant. I even got the 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 announcer, the other announcer, not the monster announcer, the human announcer, based on my friend Josiah, who's a rapper who basically raps the intro songs for wrestlers, and he's
Wow.
actually he's actually pretty dope. And Sif, I recruited my friend Santana, and I said like, I'm drawing you for this comic, and she was like, let me see, and she was like, oh my god, I need to like make that gear for when I get out in AEW. So yeah, it was just basically throwing like everything I know about wrestling. I just threw it in there. Like, I don't know what else to say. Like,
No, so it's really funny because I sent him a script and like I have a passing interest in wrestling, and he like would send back like, nope, we're changing it to this. This can't happen. Like it needs to end this way. Like he was like he was very intense of like, I would say a move, or I would say like what happened in a scene. He's like, oh, you're talking about like a 360 suplex or something like that. And I was like, okay, yeah. So like he was really like the detail that he did in the book about like, even he said he added some like words, he added some dialogue because like an announcer would say that all the time to this particular person that he was modeling one of the characters on.
Yeah, one of the I work with these people called Sportskita, and they have an intro. Their intro to the thing is that they go, watch out, watch out, watch out, and it's like a running gag. And like what happened was that way back then, JR there was a match between The Undertaker and Mankind, and he started screaming, watch out, watch out, watch out. And I was like, we need to add that. We just need to add that thing because people in the know, they will know. Like if you know wrestling, you are gonna get all the weird stuff, all the weird Easter eggs. Also, I don't know if you have noticed, the accent. I'm Puerto Rican. In Puerto Rico, wrestling is religion. Like, if you go to a wrestling thing and there's no blood, people are gonna riot. Like, I can show you videos of like the wrestlers going into the audience, like swinging like a chain, and people just dodging them and running for their lives, and it's just amazing. It's just total chaos. So I think I sent you a couple of videos, Russell, of like crazy matches.
You sent me a lot of videos when I've it's easily the most research I've ever done for like a story, for like an anthology story, and it's because wrestling has such like a story tradition in comics.
Right.
You know, it's like they go together like chocolate and peanut butter. So like I really was like very appreciative of Eric because it's a lot to take on. It's a lot to like take on, like doing the wrestling story. And we didn't have one in the second volume. And I told people, like, do not do one for the third volume. I'm doing one. I'm not doing a second wrestling story. And they still submitted wrestling stories. It was in the submission guidelines. I said, do not do a wrestling story. It will not get accepted. And still we got like 3 or 4 wrestling stories. That's how much people love their wrestling stories with Lovecraft. And
well,
it's
I
not even
think
funny. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think wrestling, and comics just go really well together. Comics is the other place that kayfabe happens, right? Like throughout the years, like feuds that aren't really feuds happen between creators. Like out of say that Marvel and DC, they feud each other. Stan Lee was calling out DC on the regular. DC was calling out Marvel. Like kayfabe happens in the wrestling thing, and it's I kind of find it funny that Eric was showing Russell a whole bunch of things, and Heather was like, "Here's Family Feud. Like, we've got you guys together, kind of educating the other about like, here's how we're going to do a story." It's really interesting. So, a couple things. We got. I think this is Emily's fan club, huh? Emily's fan club is coming.
It is my fan club.
So
Yay!
that's the other thing about Gen Z. They have a built-in fan base, like right off the bat. They love each other. We have Kat. Kate says, so excited to hear the more wonderful stories. Hi, Travis and Heather. Hey.
I'm not going to say hi to you because you didn't say hi to me.
Right. Don't talk to her. And then we got Tim.
Hey, perfect. We just talked about the other stories. So
nice. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, you're always welcome on my show, Tim. You're fully aware of that.
I appreciate that, Travis, man. And hey, it's nice to meet Heather finally. I heard a lot about you.
Nice to meet you too.
Sure, and Emily and Eric I'm meeting for the first time. Nice to meet you, everybody. I know Russell a little bit already. Sorry I was a little bit late. I had a little emergency there, but I'm thrilled to talk about Cthulhu is Hard to Spell.
Oh, and Gerald, what's up? What's up, man? How are you? And make sure, guys, check it out. We are still at, I know a lot of you guys haven't backed this. Come on now. We are still at the same numbers we start at, 2,700. Here, I'll even show it. I'm going to show it up real quick. Look, Tim's been on my show. Like, this can't stay, right, Tim? I will stay here until this changes.
Yeah, so, I got to say, Travis is good at getting backers, man. He's done it for me, and I have implicit faith in you, my friend.
Right. This is unacceptable to me. Like, in 404, like, that's an error code, right? We don't want to have an error code in what we're doing here. This is not an error. This book is complete. This is beautiful. I've read a beautiful piece of it. He sent out, actually, I think I have the whole thing, right? You sent out the whole thing recently, didn't you?
Yeah. To some people got the whole thing. Yes.
Okay. All right. I may have the whole thing, or Heather got it and showed. I don't know. I've seen a lot of it, regardless.
So you might. So if you scroll down, you can get to the theme song that Tim and his co-creator made.
All right. Hold on. Let's find that. Oh, I see it. Wait. But there's no click by it.
There should be a definitely play.
Oh, is it on the video? Okay, all right. Hold on.
Yeah, it's a video.
It's a video. Hold on. What do we got here? We got a couple other things. Y'all haven't backed it yet? Why do you hate freedom and puppies? That is what's up. Why do you guys hate freedom and puppies?
I think that was the marketing tagline.
I would once again like to ban my father from commenting on YouTube because his profile picture is a drawing I made when I was 12, and I don't like seeing it.
I want to see it. I really want to see it.
You better not.
Come on, Dad.
So that is a picture right here. That little head. I can't make it bigger. I can't zoom in, but that's the head.
This one, the Vin Diesel eats baby.
Yeah, Vin Diesel eats baby is Emily's dad.
Oh my God, this is the most adorable dad person I've seen in ages.
It's good.
Super cute.
Emily does some great stuff. Emily does some great stuff. All right, so let's hear a little bit of this song. So you wrote this, Tim.
In this case, I wrote the lyrics and my songwriting partner wrote the melody, but Russell gave very good instructions. Honestly, we were just had to kind of fill in the blanks.
Was it don't make sure it doesngood suck?
No, it was Monster Mash meets Werewolf Bar Mitzvah, but for Cthulhu.
Okay, all right.
And with a ska flavor.
Let's give this a good 30 seconds to a minute here. Let's hear what we got here.
Some do things poorly, and some will do things well. But everybody still can agree that Cthulhu is hard to spell. The monster chased me off the porch and down the back stairwell. I broke my brain when I tried to explain Cthulhu is hard to spell. As the beast approached me, I began to scream and yell. But when asked to write what I saw that night, Cthulhu was hard to spell. It grabbed me by the short hairs, threw me around like a carousel. But still I fought on while we fought. Cthulhu was hard to spell. Yes, I fear I might never be all right, but Cthulhu is hard to spell.
All right, the rest of it's just instrumental. Not just instrumental, but the rest of it is instrumental.
All right. Well, so first we've got to address this. First, Tim, never show that you have talents that Heather can have access to, because that is super dangerous. Anything cool in anything I've done is Heather. Yeah. That's why I married her, because she's the coolest. From the air fresheners that I've done to the poppy seeds, anything that is unique and cool, Heather does. Am I right? Correct, babe?
Well, now that I know this about Tim, and then Eric said he has a really dope friend that can rap, I'm like, we need to get something.
Here we go. Yeah, here we go.
Just let me know. I'll hook you up.
All right.
I'm just saying, this is going to be dangerous and probably expensive.
And we are kind of.
he did a great job. I mean, I honestly, he was a breeze to work with. I gave him like a one paragraph or 2 paragraph pitch of what I wanted, and he's like with lyrics or without lyrics, and then like a month later or 2 months later, like we had a song. And it was great. And I listened to it. I was in the mall. It was like Christmas time, and I got it, and I was literally like falling over myself laughing at this song when I got it. So it was like it's the perfect encapsulation of the series, which I think is like irreverent, but also reverent to the source material. So like it was like, you can very easily, when you're making like parody and stuff, go over to like meanness, but like it was clearly the book is clearly made by people who love Lovecraft, and the song was clearly made from people who love like those two sources. So like I think it was just like a great source. It's like a great it was a great pairing.
We just need to add it to Spotify. See if we can get some backers. You know, add it to
Yeah,
Spotify
there you go.
playlist.
There you go.
Mhm.
And I do want to say we just had a terrific time making it, and you know the thrill of creativity for music has been something that's always been inspiring for me. So I was just a thrill to work on this project, and it's something that sort of ties into what we were trying to do as well, which is in my case anyway, we were talking about things that you can emphasize for digital backers of a Kickstarter, and in my case, that's the category that was increasing. So we emphasized the music, and it can be delivered digitally. And it is something that if you like that kind of thing, or if you have a vision, it is something we're going to offer to other creators, and primarily their theme songs, but we do lyrics too. You know, when I say theme song, something you play behind you when you're advertising your Kickstarter or at the beginning of your YouTube channel, whatever you want. But with a couple of little instructions, we can hone it into, you can get a pretty dope theme song.
Yeah, no, I loved it. I think it was cool. Got a couple comments here about it. Well, we got watch on YouTube because the sound keeps going out, even if I'm working on another page. I'm working on the Kickstarter right now, trying to get pre-launch tonight or tomorrow. Dude, that is awesome, Wendy. I'm super excited to hear that. So Wendy's been working really hard at Viserion Tales. It's been on for a long time, so I'm super excited to hear that is making progress. So kudos to you. Vin Diesel Eats Babies reminds me very much of Terry Scott Taylor music. Love it.
Thank you.
He digs in the well, Peter. He's a deep digger. Like I actually had to take a minute to go, do I know those names?
Emily's embarrassed.
And then hey, Israel. But yeah. So Tim, tell us about your story, and please tell people to back. Like we are still at 526 at 404. What is going on here? Come on, people, check it out.
Okay, our short story was called The Heir of the Last Acolyte. And as I've mentioned to Russell before, he has given very specific instructions to not spoil the story. So I'm just going to give you the grand overview, which is it's a 1970s retro sci-fi take on a Lovecraftian tale in which 3 mysterious monks summon a unspeakable monstrous. So much more than that, I don't really want to say, but it has kind of a classical illustration style, I call it, not too different from what you would see in the 1970s Marvel mags along the lines of creepy or eerie. And I met a terrific art partner through this project. And I was so impressed with him, and it was so successful that we kept going. And he's the new illustrator for the Water Wars series, which our book is also on Kickstarter at the same time. So if you like what he did in the Cthulhu book, which I definitely recommend backing, there's so many terrific artists and writer in that. I'm thrilled to be associated with it. But if you like the art in our short story and you want to continue it, well, you can jump right over to Water Wars Volume 3 and see the same kind of thing that we put into that book.
Absolutely. I love the Water. So who's that artist?
His name is Renan Shoddy. He's a Brazilian. And by the way, I have to recommend him in the strongest possible terms. You know how it is, the artists are always looking for work, right? And I'm always wishing I could generate more pages so I could keep everybody busy, but I'm kind of a one-man show. So it's, I got 3 teams that I work right now, and I just try to keep everybody busy. But as far as Renan, he always has the time. He turns pages over fast, great communicator. And I felt he really exceeded my expectations on the Cthulhu story. Little bit of a language barrier, which you can work through that. Most of my teammates anyway tend to be I'm the only American, I guess, is the way I would put that. But as far as, the attention to detail and the level of effort that was put into it, I'm just really happy with the way this product turned out. And particularly, I have had a chance to preview some of these other stories in the Cthulhu book, and I'm just blown away by it. I mean, the level of art and the writing, it's all just top notch. So it's been a terrific boost for me. And once again, thank you for having me, Russell.
It's a pleasure. It's nice because you have such a, like, I don't want to say, but like it's a much more Lovecraftian story than like the other people on this stream. So it's nice to have like the whole like range. Like you and Travis have like the much more Lovecraftian stuff. Like Heather and Emily's is much like more like a silly interpretation, and then we're somewhere like absurd. I think like it's very earnest. Like I wouldn't call our story like any of the stories we've done. Maybe Good Kitty is like a silly story, but I won't call any of the stories like a funny, silly story. But like it's very earnest, but it is definitely like absurd and like over the top in like hopefully the best possible way.
Well, and I saw a couple of continuations from 2, right?
Yeah, there were. So there's two that went through all 3. Johnny C and Cara Stemo, they've done 3 now. They've run each of the 3, and so they finished it this time. And then Mary Bellamy has done all 3 and kept the same characters through all 3. Other people like Angela was in all 3. But she didn't keep the same characters. This one kind of has all of her characters that she's done for the whole series kind of together. So that was kind of cool to see, including the monsters and other scary shit, because she's one of the few that have done literally all 4 books. So sorry, Kara. I want to make sure I get that right because we said it wrong the other day. Kara Stemo. So yeah, they've done all 3 of the books, and then there were some continuations. The way that I judge success, or people really, I judge it monetarily because like the book has to get made, and I would like to not lose my house doing it. But like really, what I think about are like our fans coming back. But even more important to me is like, did the creators come back? Like what did if the creators come back, it means I'm probably treating them in a way that is in a positive way. Like they're getting something positive out of it, and so it's very nice just to see when people like are resubmitting, and a lot of people resubmitted and didn't get in this time because we didn't have room. But yeah, I mean, it's quite wonderful when people come back. And I really did this 3rd book so that people that were in the 2nd book could finish out their stories. Like that was the number one thing. I knew that Johnny and Mary and other people had like a little bit more to say, because when I first started it, I told them it was going to be a trilogy, and so they kind of planned for the trilogy. And I was like, and so it's nice to be able to have this end. And Heather was talking about this before, but it really is a book in 3 parts. So like the first book is preparing to invade, the second part is invading and taking over, and then the third book is mythological gods and humanity pushing back and trying to retake their universe. And that was kind of the pitch at the very beginning, how I saw it. And it's very hard to realize a vision in this very changing world. And so to be able to do it 3 times this year, and this being the first one, and then I'm finishing out another series in June and another series in September, it's kind of like a wonderful experience to be able to like say, this is what I intended the whole time.
Yeah. So let's ask a fun question. Let's go around the room because I know some people have to leave at the hour point, and we've got 10 minutes before that. Let's ask. So one of the things that I love about Cthulhu when I did Cthulhu Invades Oz and Cthulhu Invades Wonderland is working with properties that have stood the test of time, right? like have been around forever. So I want to go around the room and what properties would you guys want to work on if you could pick a property that you think that's stood the test of time? So it couldn't be. Let's use something that's like popular now that wasn't popular. The Boys, right? The Boys is semi-popular now, but wasn't. But I would include like Spider-Man. So something that has at least a 50-year record. So it's got to be 50 years old. Emily, that may be hard because, you didn't know what Family Feud was. So, I mean, it may be hard to see stuff back there. But we'll start with you, babe. What do you got? What would you like to write?
I don't know. Maybe something in like the fairy tale realm. That was kind of the first thing that came to mind. Just stories that you hear. I don't know, Grimm fairy tales or whatever. Just like the old fairy tales. I think that would be something to do a cool twist on.
Okay. Emily?
Are we talking about properties that are not copyrighted or just everything in general?
It could be anything as long as 50 years old. It could be Spider-Man. It could be whatever. Yeah.
Because genuinely, and I know everyone's expecting this answer from me, but the DuckTales lore is like actually so vast.
Yes.
DuckTales is unfortunately not 50 years old though, Emily. But
actually, a lot of the characters are.
The characters may be, but the
I mean, like the characters as a whole. All the characters.
Better have this one.
I'll give it to her. I especially like when Remy was one, I was like, let's watch DuckTales. It did not work because DuckTales is not a 1-year-old show, but I tried really hard and I got a lot of enjoyment out of it. And the episode where they get the unlucky duck like stuck in and they get Donald Duck's luck kind of stuck in this like casino thing. Like I was like, this is really deep. This is hella good storytelling. Like I literally watched it a couple of times in a row to like pick up the story elements. Like I'll watch episodes of shows that are like, this is really good writing. I need to take it apart in my head.
I have been reading like the comics since forever, and I'm so happy that they finally brought Deladoc. Like I have been waiting like 30 years for that character to come out. Like that was like I was like, oh no, I'm gonna throw something out of the window. That was amazing. Anyway.
All right. We'll give it to you, Emily. You got it. Tim, what do you got?
I would take a 50 years, right? I guess I would take like a Justice League of America or even Justice Society. I always kind of wanted to try my hand on a team book, something with lots of characters. Like Russell mentioned, David Pepos has this Savage Avengers, which it just sounds like such a kick-ass lineup. That's definitely something I'd want to try, and something a little bit broad with, like an ensemble cast.
Okay. Eric, what do you got?
Remember Defenders of the Earth, like the Phantom and what's the name of it? Mandrake and like all those guys.
The old Space Ghost stuff, basically.
The old pop guys, like all the old pop guys are amazing. Like even the Shadow is amazing. Like I love the. I actually have a red scarf somewhere. So like that would be amazing. Like, I mean, they are kind of like the basics of all the comics. Like that's what the pulps were. So, and they have been trying to like, I mean, I have a couple of friends that still work on the Shadow, but I don't know, like we'll have to talk to King Features at this point, but I guess it will be fun.
Yeah, on the Shadow, they keep trying to bring it back. It just never sticks, regardless of what they do. It just doesn't stick. Russell, what do you got?
I've been thinking, I've literally written everything that I've ever wanted to write in every universe that I've wanted to write on them. So I have to pick, I guess I have to pick Star Wars because I have to pick something that is not, that is like not public domain, but like I've done fairy tales, I've done Alice, I've done Oz, I've done so many Lovecraft, I've done so many things that like, it's hard for me to be like, I would really love to play in this old universe because if it's old and it's in public domain, I've probably done it if I love it. A lot of it in your series, by the way. Like my favorite two series of all time and two characters are Alice and Dorothy. So to be able to have done an Alice story for this one and then do a Wicked Witch story for the other one. Like I played in that. I love to play in it more. I just finished the 14 Baum's 14 books that he wrote in the Oz world. So there's a lot more that I could do in that now, and that series gets so weird that I could probably go back and play in that for a lot longer than I did.
Right. Russell's beauty contest, and damn, that's a killer panel. Yeah, I remember when I offered you the Wicked Witch, and like how excited you are, and like how many questions you had, and how deep of the cuts you were. Like you're asking, all right, so where are we at continuity wise? Like that was super important. Most people just like, I'm just gonna play with it. I've only seen the movie. I was like, no. Like Russell's like, well, I want you to know this and that. I was like, I know. Like I did my research before I watched it, but you were so excited to like bring that character back. Because you were resurrecting the character too, and you got the ending. You did the ending. It's funny, you did the ending of that one, and you did for this one. You do the true beginning. We have like kind of a pre-invasion, but the invasion starts on Russell's Owl story for that. But we'll talk about more of that tomorrow.
No. I want to talk about it for a minute now because okay. I was so I went back and I reread for like the 100th time the 2 Wonderland books that Carol wrote, and like I spent so long trying to get the cadence right of how Alice talks and speaks, and how the way that both of those series, but especially Wonderland, like the pacing of it works is like so different from modern pacing that it really took me a long time to do it. I wanted to do I want all of my stories to be good, but like I was particularly didactic about this particular story because Alice means like so much to me, and Portal Fantasy as a whole is like the genre that I'm in so much. Like most of my work is Portal Fantasy, Gods vs. Chronicles, Obsidian Spindle Saga. It's all like going into another world. So like those two characters, and Alice more than Dorothy as far as the lead goes, because Dorothy doesn't play. And towards the end of the books, like there's just the cast is so big, they don't like no character kind of plays like the central role in the books. But like it was very, very important to me for these 2 books because they are literally my favorite 2 series of all time.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Well, I'm glad to do that for you. So who has to leave at 11? You got to leave, Emily?
Bye, Emily. It was nice to talk with
Emily,
you.
tell people where you find it. Tell everybody what you're working on, what's going on. Tell where they can find you on the. Do they still use the Vine? I think the Vine is a thing, right?
I wish. I miss it.
Is it the MySpace? I've heard good things about the MySpace.
I miss that too. But
how about a live journal? Do you have a live journal?
I actually don't know what that is. You got me there. You can find me at most places at Emily Risette or Emily Rinks, which is just Emily R. Inks. You can find me on Instagram and on YouTube. Those are the places that I'm most active. I mostly just upload, drawings I've done and animations, and I'm kind of just working so I can become a character designer. That's my main thing right now.
Awesome.
Nice. She's great. She's open for covers and commissions and all sorts of stuff. So please hit her up. Her agent is her dad, who embarrasses her. But
I like your dad, dude. Your dad is like my hero right now.
I'm sure he appreciates it.
Peter's pretty funny. You can get them both on a panel together, and it is a wild time.
Ooh.
Peter normally sits right behind her, and it's kind of he just kind of like leans over as she's talking, and it's weird. Though he's in, we'll see how it goes with Wonderland stuff because he's actually in the book. He's not just editing, right? So
yeah, I think so. Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll be spending a lot more time with you, Emily. But yes, pick up this book, read Heather and Emily's story. You've got them. So all right.
Bye, Emily.
Bye.
Bye, Emily.
Bye.
Anybody else have to go?
I kind of got to take off too. I did tell Travis this. I'm actually at work. An alarm went off, and I had to run in and turn the alarm off. So that's what I'm doing here.
Gotcha.
But I just
Well,
want to
good seeing you, buddy.
Yeah, you too. I'm just going to give a quick pitch for the people that are listening out there. If you're on the fence, you got to pick up this book. Cthulhu is Hard to Spell. Some of the greatest writers in the industry right now. Some of the greatest artists. There's going to be music. There's digital bundles of books. Do not miss Cthulhu is Hard to Spell.
Absolutely. Do you want to get a quick pitch for yours, your other thing? You're live.
Is that cool, Russell?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
It's my show. Don't ask him.
Well, I saw the banner at the bottom. I don't want to step on the. But yeah, hey, if you like the kind of work that we're doing that you'll see in the Cthulhu is Hard to Spell book, chances are you would like our material in the Water Wars book. And I'm telling my followers, the people that are reading Water Wars 2288, if you're collecting the series, you need to buy Cthulhu is Hard to Spell.
Ooh.
I can't explain to you why, but it is part of the universe.
Oh. Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, it's canon.
Nice.
So with that, I will see you, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for inviting me. As always, it's a pleasure.
Seeing you, man.
Bye.
That goes for Heather and I as well. Every cat in all of our books are the cats from Luthor. So just so that everyone's aware, every cat you see at every one of our books. That may really screw up Heather's Pup Van Winkle story, but that's fine. It's canon. I didn't know we could do that. But evil cats, they're a problem.
Evil cats. Well, evil cats, like they seem like they're just trying to get justice to me. A funny story about that. So Megan Hutchinson, a very popular Marvel DC artist.
Yeah, Donny Cates' wife.
Yeah, Donny Cates' wife. But really, I think of Donny as Megan Hutchinson's husband.
Okay.
I met her at a convention, and I always do this where like I have a set list, but like if I meet somebody who seems cool, like I'll give you 2 pages. Like you get 2 pages, like for me. Like if we meet in person and I really like your work, like I'll still give out some 2-page stories right in the middle. And I did this with Emily, not expecting anything. But she came back. She's like, no, I really want to do it. Emily's great. I mean, her Will o' the Wisp is like one of my favorite books. It's so great. And like, she has this like really haunting Gothic style that's just so incredible while still being like cute and spooky still at the same time. And so she's like, I don't know Lovecraft though. And I was like, she's like, I don't want to do anything that like dark. And I was like, well, like you should do probably his least dark work is like The Dream Quest of Unknown Kadath, because it's like, that's my favorite Lovecraft book. And she goes away and reads, and she goes, God damn you. Like that book, that was still sad. I was like, I didn't say it was, I said it was not, I said it was lighter than his other stuff, but like, it's still dark because Lovecraft is dark. And that's, one of the things that I tried to do in this series. It's weird because the third book the second book we launched in 2020, and the third book we've been kind of doing after the pandemic, right? So like I originally said if we got to $30,000 that I would open book 3, which I was on the fence about, but like people had asked me a lot, and I was like, well, $30,000 is like a lot of money for a book. So like if we get there, like I will open submissions for the next one. I did that right after we finished. We did the second volume in March 2020. So like the absolute worst time to do anything related to anything in the world. And so I opened it immediately, and I closed it. I was like, I can't do this. I just can't do this now. It's impossible. And so it took me a year to open it again. And backstory wise, like Lovecraft's main ethos is there is nothing there, you die, and there's nothing left. The universe means nothing. No one cares about you, and you should be scared shitless of that fact. Kind of this the thesis statement of of Lovecraft's work. The thesis statement of my work is like the gods don't care about you, like nothing matters, and that's fucking hilarious. Like that's so like that's there's like this endless comedy in like the fact that like why does the universe even exist then? Like why waste so much entropy? Like this is so stupid, and yet here we are. And like there's a lot of hope in my personal work. And so what I found this book being a lot about was like this overall thesis argument, which kind of plays out in the world right now, which is fear versus hope. And like, which one should we be focused on, and which one means more, and which one will carry you further in this world? And that's not really like a Lovecraftian ethos discussion, but this book very much becomes sort of like fear versus hope, which I hope is, if not the Lovecraft book that you think you're going to get, like the one that you need right now, because I find it very prescient in putting it together. I found it very prescient to watch these stories and like fear winning one and hope winning another, and fear and hope and fear and hope. And like it ping pongs back and forth between these like ideals, and they don't all deal heavily with it, but there's definitely this undercurrent of like, can hope win out when fear is rampant?
Right.
But I think too, like if you're looking at it like that, the absurdity of life itself, and how what I really like in your books, Russell, speaking about the Cthulhu books, like you allow people, like creators, to change that narrative. So like for me, I don't really know Lovecraft's work, to be honest. Like Travis introduced me to what Cthulhu even was, and when he had put together Cthulhu Invades Oz, he pretty much just ran with it, and then I was like, okay, I'm going to edit the book and help put it together and everything. But he had gotten all the creators together prior to that. And I was like, okay, I'm kind of learning as I go along. I've never read any Lovecraft books. I've done research online just simply because of the work that I did on Cthulhu Invades Oz, and then submitting to you. I've kind of learned about the characters just looking stuff up online. But what I like is that you allow people to change up that narrative a little bit, right? Because in my story, it's silly, it's fun, it's, you're never going to see these characters really in a Family Feud style game show, but you allow that. And I think that's about life, right? Like we can stop and say, all this BS is going on, this is ridiculous, like, but we can change our narrative, or at least like have the opportunity to change that narrative. And so here we are, you allow silly stories in the book, you allow pitches that are more true to the actual style of Lovecraft's work, and so that's what I really like about it.
Well, thank you. And it's definitely something we think about a lot. I think about it a lot, and because we have mostly the same ethos of like, the gods don't care about you, like life is meaningless, it's just this final moment of like, but like that doesn't mean we have to fear everything. Like there's hope and joy and love, and that happens as you're alive. And like, is there a second thing that happens after you die? Like, I don't know, probably not, but like it kind of feels like a waste to like have all of the knowledge just go into the ground afterwards. Like, so I don't know, but like that doesn't mean that you have to fear it. And Lovecraft, like what I love about Lovecraft is, here is a person who made a mythos that is unbound from religion. And say what you will about anyone else that's not Lovecraft, that has had an enduring thing. Their mythos, the mythology behind them, is either straight from a religion, like Norse or Greek, or like C.S. Lewis, it is an allegory for religion, for like Christianity.
Right.
Yeah. So you very rarely get anything mythological based where humanity is not at the center of it. And what I appreciated about Lovecraft's mythos, outside of the writing and outside of everything else, is here is a universe where humanity is insignificant. Like, they do not matter. The gods have better and more interesting things to do than to care what humanity does. And it feels like more lived in to my experience of what would happen if there are gods. Like, they probably just do not care. And the ones who do care are like pretty insignificant. So it was, but again, that doesn't mean that because they don't care, like, that there can't be hope and love and all of the good things in there. It just, to me, when I came across it, it was weird to say a breath of fresh air, but like, it really was like someone being like, oh, look, there's someone saying that the gods probably don't care about you. These are gods of immense power, like so powerful, like they could snap their finger and destroy worlds. And yet, like, they are so wrapped up in humanity that like they can't even function without them. Like, those two things seem to not compute. And no real mythology has ever grappled with that. Maybe the Assyrians and a couple of the ones like Sumerians, but none in the last 5,000 years. So it's just, and I'm sure there are books that did not endure that had similar things. But like, here we have someone who's endured 100 years. And I think part of it is because of that dynamic, which is sorely lacking in a discussion about religion. I actually think he's an underrated mythologian and a very overrated horror author.
No, I can agree with that, especially as someone who when Heather asked me, hey, I need some research on Cthulhu, I actually didn't reach. I do have H.P. Lovecraft books, but I didn't get those to her because these aren't going to help Heather understand, who has no grasp. I grabbed my RPGs. Like, I was like, here you go. Here's a stack of RPGs. Here's the section of the gods. Like, look at them in the back. Yeah. Which I think she ended up Googling. She's like, I don't know how to look at this either because Heather's not an RPG person. So for her, that was like, what?
Well, and that is really the end. If you think about like the origin of why I did this book, that's it. That's the exact reason, is because there is no resource that talks about like the gods of the universe except in RPG very dry terms. So you're going to find a lot of silly stories. What you'll find is like a story about the black goat in the woods who meets an adventurer and shows all of their kids.
Right.
Like pictures of all their, it's like, that's not going to happen in Lovecraft, but you will find that is the place that character draws in the mythos. We have a story in the first volume of Orn and Numqua in marriage counseling, and like, no, they will never be in marriage counseling, but that is relationally how they exist in the world. You'll probably will see them both together. They are very dysfunctional. Our story in the first volume, Azathoth Slumbers, was about Azathoth, the musicians around the elder gods that lull Azathoth to sleep. They want to go on a band. They want to go on they want to go and form a band, and like, that's ridiculous. But Azathoth does have elder gods surround him, and that functionally is how the universe is. What's up, Eric? You have something to add?
So what happened at that moment was that I was hanging out with a lot of punk rockers, and I had my band running, and I was like, and I went to you, and you were like, oh, I want to do like something about this. And I was like, I want punk rockers, I want musicians, and that's where everything came from.
Yeah, and in our second story together, Good Kitty, it was it was about a Yith who moves their consciousness through time and ends up in the body of a cat. And it's like, no, you will literally never see that story in Lovecraft. But like, that is how the Yith operate in the universe. They move their consciousnesses, I forget, forward or backward in time. Backwards in time to like, thank you, to figure. And so relationally, if you see a Yith, that is what the relationship will be. And so we wanted to be narratively, tonally all over the place, but relationally, we wanted it to be very accurate to how the world works,
Right.
so that someone like Heather could read all of the books and be like, oh, I get it. Like, I get who these gods are, even if I don't tonally understand the actual tone of the Lovecraft stories, because that's the easiest part. Like, Lovecraft wrote pulp novels, which means almost all of his stories are very similar in tone, in style, and in substance. So, like, if you can figure out the God part of it, figuring out how to write a Lovecraft story is not the hardest thing in the world. The hard part is, like, he will say a being of unimaginable terror, and that's all you get for, like, this God. And you're like, oh, what? And that'll be everything. Every monster in every story is just an unimaginable terror, and that's what you get from him. So once you understand what the relations are, you can kind of differentiate them.
Well, and I will argue on one point of that. I think writing crazy is hard. I've seen too many people do it wrong over the years to think, like, too many bad Joker stories, too many bad Carnage stories, too many bad, like, writing good crazy is hard. So I will get that. That's the only part of it that you've got to unlock. If you can master that, any Lovecraft story is easy.
Yeah, but a lot of his stories end when people start going crazy.
Well, that's true.
Like, they're a lot of his stories are detective books or PI books, and, like, it's only once they view the horror that is the monsters that they go crazy. But yes, I mean, it's very hard to write crazy.
Well, and I was even going to point out, like, for those who love Lovecraft, you can see it in a lot of Doctor Who. Like, there's a lot of Doctor Who, just like we were talking, being pushed back time. That's the Weeping Angels. It's the same thing. He just twisted it a little bit and made it stuff. It's literally taken from that. Their objectives, their goals are Lovecraftian goals. Like,
yeah, I mean,
that's dry, and they laugh about it.
Yeah, I mean, the Sandman is very Lovecraftian as far as, like, and that's why I allow so many different tones, not just because I like them, but because we're 100 years out of Lovecraft, 100 years out of like Lovecraft's lifetime, basically. At least when he started doing the writing, and like, there's just so much Lovecraft that is tonally all over the place. Like, the Abyss is very different than Jacob's Ladder, and it's very different than Christine, and it's very different than Doctor Who. But all of them have these influences, and to just tone, for me, your story is very different because it's like a narrative. But, like, for me, it didn't feel right to make a story about gods and monsters of Lovecraft's universe and then be like, and also, like, they're all going to be horror stories, or they're all going to be silly stories, or they're all going to be slice of life stories, because that's not true to the remixing that people have done of Lovecraft over the last 100 years, which is as valid to Lovecraft's legacy as Lovecraft's original work itself.
Well, and that's, going into, when you talk about, when I wrote you the Uthar story, I really channeled Lovecraft. Like, I tried to write a Lovecraft, a modern telling of Lovecraft. But when you look at, like, Cthulhu Invades Oz, what worked about Oz is Oz are basically heroes. So it's really easy. The Oz characters, Tin Man, Scarecrow, they're all heroes. So they're easy to write, right? Anybody can kind of pick them up and write them. But when we got to Wonderland, that was out of the window, like, because they are also mad. Like, what does that look like? And being able to tell these stories and being able to do that, it's really interesting. And that's what's great about Cthulhu is the characters of that world can fit in any realm that you put them in, and fit seamlessly because they're written well, they're created, they've been delved into and dig down deep to figure out what makes them tick, which I think is really cool.
Yes, and I thought the brilliant thing you did about Oz, I don't know if you meant to do this, I'm guessing that you did, is, like, Oz has the exact thing that I talked about, which is, like, it is absurd. Like, it is an absurdist book that is full of, like, things don't matter, you can't die, The stakes are low, but you should still hope and love and try anyway.
Right.
Like, it is the opposite of Lovecraft's work. Whereas like Wonderland is just like Madcap City. And I wonder, because the previous one didn't have the same point of view multiple times, if I remember correctly. Like, were there multiple Dorothy
Correct.
stories?
Yeah, the first one, everyone had a character, and they could mention other characters, but you could never actually physically see them, or they had to be in flashbacks. But that's why in this one we really had to put, that you're going to split the world. Alice has to be loyal, and not to reveal. We'll talk about boys tomorrow. Loyal. Mad Hatter has to be mad and embrace that. And what does that look like in the characters and picking sides? So you have to be able to have those characters. But we didn't mention it earlier, but Chuck, like, it was so important when Chuck did a story for Alice later, that's super important plot wise. Because again, the favorite thing I do differently is thematically, your books are all connected in one theme. Mine is a serialized serialized storytelling, just with anthologies. So it's one story, beginning, middle, and end. Luckily, I'm very blessed to be able to do that really well because I've role played more than I've written, right? Like, my primary writing in the world has been role playing. So I'm really good in LARP, specifically LARP role playing, meaning 20, 40, 50 people, like, their stories, putting them all into my story and making it work. So doing that for Wonderland, it was way trickier, and we're still working it all out, but it'll work out. But yeah, we allowed that to happen a little bit more, and it works out. But it only works out. The secret to it, I'll share the secret here because it's not the Cthulhu Invades panel. The secret is when we have the days of advantage, when lots of days pass, people fill in the missing holes. Right. Your brain fills in those missing holes, whether or not you meant to or not. Like, your brain will fill in those holes. Oh, all right, this happens way later, so that's why it looks different or feels different or blah blah blah.
Yeah, I hope Tiger Dinah shows up in other stories.
Well, there is things that I intentionally leave out. Like, the Gnome King was intentionally left out of Cthulhu. It was never an option, never put on it, because I want to eventually go back and tell these stories. What's cool about the other cool thing about having those dates, I could have not done Wonderland and did Cthulhu Invades Oz 2 and just put gaps. As long as we fit those timelines, like, you can go, oh, so this is before Dorothy did this, or this is after this happened. You can kind of fit those stories. And we may go back and do that. I was actually thinking about maybe one day doing just a generic Cthulhu Invades, and allow people to visit old ones and kind of put them together. But we got Neverland, and
I was gonna say, I assume we got Neverland next, because that's the
we got Neverland, but
that's the third trilogy. That's the
well, that's the next big one, right? That's the next big one, and really, it's the last one, in my opinion, that is solid. Like, you can do the other books don't have as many cool characters that people can latch onto. There's other great stories, Moby Dick, Pinocchio. There's some good stuff there, but you don't have a massive cast of characters to give people,
Sure.
The only other thing I could do is really grim fairy tales, and now that 100 Acre Wood System. But if I would never do that without Tigger. You can't do that book without Tigger. You got to wait a few years.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, that's what I assume. Well, the nice thing is it's like also Portal Fantasy. Like, all three of them, the things are Portal Fantasy books. Like, you could probably find something in not Portal Fantasy, but like, now you're like going away from the main bread and butter, and like, you gotta have Peter Pan versus Oz and Hook and all of it makes sense. Like, as I was reading this, I thought you were going to do Oz 1, 2, 3, and when you did Wonderland, I was like, oh, he's definitely doing Neverland next. Like, you can't not do Neverland next. Like, it's the other one. That's the part of the trilogy of like the triumvirate of like Portal Fantasy origins.
So Todd, we could do Cthulhu Invades Wonderland fairy tales, but that would just be a regular anthology. It wouldn't be Cthulhu Invades. Cthulhu Invades is serialized storytelling. If we did fairy tales, they're all in different universes. I mean, I have to explain why they're all together. I have to do like a Fables thing and make it like, there's a lot of groundwork that you got to put in to make that work, right? But Todd says Golden Burrito. Todd is a great show does some really cool stuff. Cthulhu Invades Fairy Tale Land. I think you're going to be on his show. I think you said you wanted to be on that one, Russ.
I think so. This is my last hang that is specifically Cthulhu is hard to spell related. After today, I do all the things that I'm doing. I think are Cthulhu Invades Oz related. So,
by the way, we got some backers.
I saw that. Thank you.
So that's great. So thank you guys for backing. You will not be disappointed. This is really, really Cthulhu Invades Shrek then. No, Todd, do you remember Cthulhu Invades Powdered Toast Man? Like that universe is deep.
I think you could do like Cthulhu Invades, like, and do pick a mythology like that. You could do.
Yeah, you absolutely could do that. But again, like then you're starting to be Assassin's Creed, right? Like let's just throw a template.
Yeah. Well, I think that like Oz, Wonderland, Neverland is like, to me, that's like
that's the thing.
That's everything that like I would ever want to see, like Cthulhu invading personally. But I am also just one person. Like I'm just one person.
And I think people are going to be really, we've talked about it. I did a post that said, hey, my intention for the post was to warn people that I'm not going to take a lot of people.
Yeah.
The opposite happened. Everybody sent me submissions. It's like, oh, submissions are open. No. I informed people that there's like 12 characters for Neverland. Neverland's going to be very small, very intimate. It's going to be very different. It's almost like the opposite of what we've been going. In fact, Wonderland, really, we should have like went Neverland, Oz, Wonderland. If I like planned it out, like built up bigger and bigger mythoses, as you go.
Well, you still can go. Like you still, I mean, you can still make. I just did this with the Godsverse Chronicles. Where like I'm just slotting books like before the other books. So like when it comes out, you can just be like, actually, this is book one. We did it third, but like it's really the first one.
Well, there is one that I could do that would be really cool. I don't know if you've read, and you'd really love it if you haven't read it. Once in Future, have you read that?
Yeah.
Have you been reading that ongoing?
I haven't read it the ongoing, but if there's a
no, I'm
King
saying
Arthur
it wrong. What am I saying? Hold on. I'm not saying it right. The Boom book. Hold on. And I read it monthly. I don't know why I'm not saying it right. Come on, Todd, help me out. Todd's here. He'll know in a minute. I'm not even going to bother Googling it. But basically, it's a retelling of all the England tales. From I think it's Once in Future. I think it's what it's called, but it's not what you're thinking of.
Oh, it's not Camelot.
What is it? Once in Future? Okay, it is Once in Future. Okay, I'm right. All right. So Once in Future, it's all the mythos, but not just Camelot. So Camelot is where it started, but it got stuff from Shakespeare, Grendel, and like all of that stuff is mixed in there all at the same time, which is super dope. So like any of those monsters, and it has a really cool mythos of why it works, which is really, really cool. You would really, really dig it.
All right. Cool.
And what you would love about it, when the creatures come, so let's say a Camelot creature comes, they're still trying to achieve their Camelot goal. So whatever their goal was, they're still doing it if they come into the time. So Grendel is still doing the Grendel thing. Like it's pretty fun.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah. Our Obsidian Spindle Saga series has like a lot of that stuff in it too.
Even more. Look.
Even more, we got it. That means we can go home and go to bed. Yeah. Like at some point, whenever we're done, we don't have to like just keep sitting here and hammering. We did it. We've achieved $40, $50, which is nice.
Which is nice.
Yeah, I mean, I am still shocked that my books consistently hit like such big numbers still to this day. Like, I think people think that it gets. I don't know. It never gets. I never expect it. I always think it's going to be a bomb. And B, like every time it happens, I'm like pleasantly like surprised that I can like keep doing this because like, I don't know. I feel like we shouldn't be able to do this like as a full-time thing. Like not that we shouldn't be able to do it, but like that it should be impossible to just be like, here's this weird thing I made. And then like 500 people are like, yes, I will give you money for that. And like, then you can just do it again. And you just do like, it's like, here's another weirder thing that I have. And like, here's more weird things. And people are just like, yes, keep doing it. And like, that's just your job. Like,
Right.
It is endlessly like baffling to me, but like not in like you shouldn't be able to do it. Just like it shouldn't be like I can't believe that people are like have for 5 years been like, yes, I like the things out of your head enough that I would pay you to do it full time.
Yeah, no, I think it's really cool. I mean, I wish I had your talent to write novels. Like novels for me are extremely hard to even consume. You have a brain for that stuff, which is really cool. And what I love about you is like, I don't know if I should say this, but I think it's okay because I think you made it public. Like once this was done, this is it. Like you're willing to pass it on to somebody else to let somebody else live their legacy, which I think is really cool.
I think that things need to end. I think enough stuff don't end.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, I'm on panels all the time, and people are shocked that I'm not doing more Wonderland, more Wonderland, more Cthulhu is hard to spell, and I'm like, it's just like things need to end. They should end. Like Ichabod needs to end. Like and like if you've done a good job of cultivating your audience, you can create a new thing,
right?
And like then that will need to end. But like you can then do it again and again and again and again. I think that this is gonna sound weird, but like I don't think I've ever had a hit, like the kind of hit that like you can't walk away from.
Right.
Like Oz was a hit. Like L. Frank Baum did not want to make more Oz. Like he just kept doing it, and you can see in the letters that he does in the beginning of every volume, just like he just doesn't feel like Arthur Conan Doyle, like continually killed Sherlock Holmes because he did not want to do it, but like he couldn't not do it. I think like there are like worlds that are just so popular that like you probably can't end them. It's just impossible to end. Like it's impossible to end Goosebumps.
Right.
But like they ended Animorphs. It took 60 books, but like they ended Animorphs, and that was incredibly popular. So I think you get to a point that if you want to keep a book going, I'm not saying you should like end it at 12 or 15 or 18 or whatever. Like, but I think that at some point it gets to just be, I don't want to, it's not onerous. It's just like you end up saying like, I've said it. Like I've said I had a thesis statement about this world, and I worked it out in my writing or in this book. And like, now I've worked it out. Now continuing to do it would be a disservice to the book, and frankly, a disservice to the fans, because I think what they're after is not just the Cthulhu brand. It's the Cthulhu is hard to spell brand that like has a point of view.
Right.
And I'm very excited to see if there's a team out there that like wants to continue it or do something with it, or it just gets abandoned and like it doesn't. But the thing is, it doesn't get abandoned because like it's done. Right. Like it's over. It's like I feel like abandoned projects are ones that like end in the middle. Like you just are like, I didn't get, but like Ichabod is done. Like it's finished. It's a complete thought. Like it is so stressful, as you know.
Right.
Eric knows too. Like finishing, like when you're in the middle of a thing, like the more pages get done, the closer you get to the end, the more pressure you build for yourself, right? Because you're like, well, I've done 220 pages out of 250. Like if I die now, like I'm real deep in it.
Right.
Dude, like you remember the Red Calaveras? Like when I started the Red Calaveras, I thought it was gonna be like 120 pages, and it just kept going and going. And at one point, I was like, I need to finish.
You didn't get to the story for 100 pages, if I remember correctly.
It didn't start till like 120 pages. It was like 586 pages. Like it was a monster. Like at one point, I was like, I need to finish this because I'm gonna end up with 10,000 pages if I keep going. And literally took me like 6 months to finish it. Like it was just an animal. Like it wasn't one person working on it. I had a team working on it. Like I had my friends coming in to the studio to just paint because it was just a giant monster. Like it was just difficult to make.
Yeah.
And there's still people that are going like, when are you gonna do the second part? I'm like, never. This is so difficult.
So I remember having a lot of conversations with Eric and being like, and so like this book doesn't start until page 100. Like they don't even go into space until like it's like you could read 100 pages of this book and they don't even go into space yet, and it's a fucking sci-fi book.
Yes, they like literally they go into space in page 101, and it's that they don't go to space; they call into space. Like basically, the first 100 pages is them being annoying, hanging out, drinking, and starting fights in bars. Like literally, that's the first 100 pages.
Yep.
And then bounty hunters. It's
I think that's part of the nature of the beast. I think there's two ways of doing this, and I think Russ and I are very similar in the way we do things. We tell a story, we move on to the next thing, and we're looking for that thing that's going to resonate. Like we're okay with our stuff, and we think that it's okay that I love this. If nobody else loves it, it's okay. I'll move to the next thing because it's not the only thing I can write. Where some creators are, this is all I'm ever going to write. Like this is my opus, this is my thing, and I've seen that work. I've seen creators who, when you're at 25, eventually, like a company like a Scout or a SourcePoint is going to be like, all right, this guy's still doing it. Like. And he hasn't given up. Like, what's it about? It does work, but I think I prefer the other way. Let's tell shorter stories. Are they resonating? No. Let's move on to the next story. It's not that I don't love those stories. I don't have most stories to tell in those universes. I'd rather go back to them later as something you love to kind of find a hallmark that really resonates and that really, really hits, and then hit that hard, right?
Do you remember the time when like Dave Sim goes and says like, I'm gonna do 300 pages of like Cerebus,
right?
And it's gonna be a monster. And now Todd McFarlane just did that sitting on his head, and like did like Eric Larson, so did like the guy from PvP. Like everyone.
But let's argue. Hold on, Dave Sims really did it. Todd McFarlane had tons of other people like carrying the load. When Eric Larson did it, that's someone who really did it.
Dave Gerhardt would say differently on Dave Sim, but that's another story. But the guy from PvP, or like, what's the name of that thing? Homestuck. Right. Like those guys were crazy. Like everyone does it. Like nowadays, like right now, I'm like envious of all of them. I'm like, I wish I could do 30 years of this stuff.
Well, I think I believe that Eric Larson, when he dies in history, like 5 or 10 years after he dies, I think we're going to see someone understanding his legacy, because if you look at his model of work, he really is. This is when you have to revamp a character. This is how long until it gets boring and you have to do this thing. Like you've seen it in real time. We've seen it in Marvel and DC where they've switched it, but there's different writers. You're like, oh, that was just the writer doing it. You can see Eric's progression of, this is when you need to change it on its head to keep this interesting, to keep me writing it, to keep readers reading it. And I think that once it's done, you got to figure it out.
I thought that you were going to say that 10 years after Eric Larson died is when the last issue of Savage Dragon is going to come out.
That's probably, well, now he's always behind. If you, I follow him on Facebook, he's literally submitting. He's like, I just finished it today. I'm like, all right.
No, it's not that he's so advanced. It's that he's just going to keep drawing. Like, they're not going to notice that he died. He's going to be like this, drawing, and like, he's going to be a skeleton. The skeleton drawing in his table. Anyway,
I think we're all going to know, because he is very, 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 very vocal on social media. So if he's not around for like 10 minutes, you should start worrying.
Right.
I think I've evolved in this over the years too. I think that creator needs to have like a signature series that you can drive people back to. Like Eric has Red Calaveras, or like I don't know. I guess I have Ichabod and Cthulhu, but like you need at least one series that's someone that is longer, that will drive your marketing efforts, and then you can spend real money on, because there's real money to be had. The problem is doing, and I've done having one volume or having 4 issues or 5 issues, like there's really not enough to be like, I'm going to go and spend a lot on advertising from that book. Like I can't go and acquire people outside of word of mouth for like a 4-issue series. Usually like a 16-issue series, which is what we have with Ichabod now. Once that's over, that's a meaty series that you can, that's $40 you could spend acquiring somebody. So like you can do different stuff. When we're doing Gods vs. Chronicles, that's 11 novels. It's 11 novels. That's $60 that you can spend to acquire somebody. Like I think you need in this day and age like that, something like that. It doesn't have to, you don't have to be in it forever. Sure. Like you have to be in it long enough to be able to then acquire cold traffic audiences. Right. Because that is when you move from like, frankly, what I do every day, which is like word of mouth. And you can be like, here's advertising, and I can go and now find unlimited people because it's never going to cost me $60 to acquire a lead for like a series. And that's when things really start to get interesting for friends of mine who do like books and stuff. It's usually around 5 novels or like 10, like 5 to 10 books in a series is where you really start seeing like people being able to spend a lot of money to acquire cold traffic who may not even like comics, but definitely don't like your comics. So they don't know your comics exist. Right. I preference short stories. I mean, if you Ichabod was a short story, it was one story. Katrina, Pixie Dust, Black Market Heroin, they're all these one stories, but they live in these larger universes that hopefully, and this is me talking without information, without personal firsthand information. Usually when I make suppositions, I have like firsthand personal data to go along with it. This is one of those rare times where I just don't have data, because people in comics just don't use advertising, like really, like not in the way that like traditionally, like in books, they use advertising. Like I know it works in books because I've seen it work in books. And also every author that you can name has some series. Every author we've talked about on this program has like one series that, like, whether it's Sandman or Cerberus or
Savage Dragon, Spawn.
Yeah, Savage Dragon, Spawn. Like they all have the one thing. Right. They do other stuff, but they've got the one thing that they can continually acquire new fans to, who then will go into other stuff. Because like, name another Neil Gaiman series. There's not one. That's a series. That's his thing. He does single books, but he has Sandman. Right. So it's not like you always have to be doing series. But I do think you've got.
Yeah, the only thing that has a sequel is American Gods.
Yeah, and that didn't have series. And now he has like TV shows that have series and stuff. But like for the most part, it's not his thing to do like books that have series. He gets lucky. He's not lucky. He's very skilled, but like his books win awards, and so he's able to do single issues. Usually, you can't do that because you can't drive enough traffic. But again, people hear Sandman. That's usually the first thing they get, or one of the movies like Coraline or something gets the first thing, and that's how he was able to dominate, because he carved out that ability to make a consistent story through Sandman, and those people followed him back to his novels. Right. So
I agree.
But it's really hard with comics. So like I always tell people, like, it's very like you should figure out how to write novels, because like comics are very expensive. Like one issue of comic costs $2,000 to $5,000. One issue one not book costs $500 to make. So like it's just the maths work more easily to get a body of work.
Yeah.
But yeah, long and the short of it is like I would prefer to do shorter stories moving forward, as you know, Travis, based on Secret Status Project.
Yeah. But all these things, are all about storytelling and about building stuff, and it's about building things. Like I always feel weary, like when I do a podcast with somebody and they're like, I'm on issue 25 of my thing. I've come out with issue 1. That means you don't give a crap about fan feedback. You don't care about finding that fan base and what that is. You're already moved past that. Like you've already moved past the thing. Like you're deep into it before you even know if it works. I always get worried about those creators. And I know when you did Ichabod, you did this, and then you waited a while, then you came up with the other stuff because you knew exactly what those fans wanted, and you did other stuff and figured it out.
Well, yeah, I mean, we did. We came out with Ichabod in 15, 14. Launched the actually had it come out like in people's hands in 15, right. And the second volume didn't start 2019. Like with Katrina, 15 we released the first book, 17 we released the Pixie Dust, and the novelizations didn't start launching until 2019, 2020. So like that's a long time to wait to like get feedback. I'm not saying you should wait that long to get feedback. That's insane. But like I was able to build out a world and it feels lived in because like I was able to pitch it to fans and be like, here's what the backstory is of these things. And the only reason that the book is so expansive, the Gods Verse is so expansive, is specifically because I would take Katrina to shows and they were like, what happens next? And I would tell them like the backstory of the world, right. And like they all flipped for it. So like maybe in a bad way, I like didn't I should have probably had like some more foresight to make that the first novel, but it does, like the world is expansive because the fans made it expansive and they made me dot my I's and cross my T's. And the same thing with Ichabod is like, I know why fans love Ichabod. So like if I wanted to come back and do more Ichabod, I could come back and do more Ichabod specifically because like I know what makes like an Ichabod fan tick now.
Well, and I think you can, one of the cool things, especially with the add-on thing on Kickstarter, going back to the Kickstarter part of it, I love seeing the add-ons where someone's like, I'm going to just pick up this book. And I didn't give enough description. Like you do a lot of description on your Cthulhu. It's hard to spell about each of the books, but I don't. I just have the names of the things that if you know it, you know it. If you don't, you don't. And I love going, oh, so you've been watching me for this series and now you've decided to go all in because of something else. And I always find that interesting stuff.
I find it super interesting that people that I've never met before will do an all-in pledge. Like I still have a hard time believing that. Like,
right, we'll buy everything.
It's like $450 to do that, or $475, and people do it. Like I think 4 or 5 people have done it this campaign, and I'm like, I don't know if I know those specific people, but like most of those people that go all in do not come from my email list. They just are like, I want all of it. I see it all looks cool, and I want a little bit of everything. And like that is like mind-boggling to me. And it was mind-boggling to me when it was like $100 to get everything. So like now that it's like $500 and people are still doing it, like it's like a really very gratifying feeling as a creator, because you're not just like, I'm not just the editor of this book. Like the main thing that I do is create worlds. And so to have like people be there for that is just, it's very, very, very gratifying outside of this. And the thing that I like the world that my favorite part of the Cthulhu is Hard to Spell universe is the world that we all live in with it. Right. Like, it's the meta world where like, it's kind of like the Elsewhere. I like to think of it as like the Elsewhere, where it's like, Elsewhere, Unlike a Hero Studios book, where it's like elsewhere. And so like every story is like, but I'm like, in another dimension, this is happening with these Lovecraft gods. And in another dimension, these are happening with these Lovecraft gods.
Right. It's all one continuity. It's all fits together.
Absolutely. So we've been going on for
2
hours.
We are at the almost at 2 hour mark. Let's wrap this up. Let's see where we're at. See if we're stuff. Let's give it one more for people who stuck out this long and don't know what this book is about. Let's go through it.
So for people who don't who are on the fence right now, I will say that if you go to the top of the page, you get all of these perks you get for backing this week. The very first thing you get Lands of Tunes 1 to 5. You get Ichabod 1, Soccer, a short story I did with Nathan Luth. 4 prints from Claire Leslie. Voodoo Nations *1. You know, maybe you guys know that one. Baby #1 with George O'Connor. Cinder *1. Katrina #1. Boston Metaphysical Society #1 and #1 of Impure Blood, and you unlock everything that we do in the future. So, like, not only are you going to get all this cool stuff that we're going to talk about in a second, but you get week 4 perks, week 5 perks, week 6 perks. I think that's the last, maybe week 7 perks if there are 7 perks, but like. Our Fundle Bundle, like there's going to be a ton more extra stuff that are going to be coming your way. And you're going to get them all just for backing as early as possible. Cool. I'm trying something new this time where I'm like pulling certain rewards forward for week to week. So some people will get everything, but you won't get most of this stuff again if you don't pledge right now. Let
me even say this. You can read 90 pages of it right now. Like this guy is giving you $90 and it's not worth giving him $1. Like, come on.
Yeah. I mean, I want you to like it. Like, I want you to know you like it. And like, I think you're going to know that from the 40 pages, but yeah, the 90-page sampler is
what more can you do?
Yeah. I mean, it's almost 500 pages of straight story. No like filler. There's additional pages for filler, but like it's basically 500 pages almost of story about the gods and monsters of Lovecraft across 3 volumes. You can pick up all 3 volumes digitally for $30, or you can mix and match audio commentaries and PDFs, or you can get all of that stuff for $60. I think it's $59 actually. So you can just see all of these varied art styles. There is a retailer tier at $160 and $320. Comes with pins and books.
Well, let's talk about that. So this is Danny from the Collective, and let me kind of sway that a little bit more. So what's the 160? What does the retail give for 160?
10 copies of any of the 3 volumes that you want. Really, any book that you want from Mark.
Danny, for you, like I'm in volume 2, Heather's in volume 3. Do you have any Florida creators in volume 1?
Let's see.
Here, I'll bring up the Kickstarter.
Pick up. I don't know specifically.
Yeah. I'd probably be better at this.
Yeah, you would be better. We have Megan Hutchinson in that one,
which is crazy, by the way. You kept switching to Emily, so I didn't know if Megan. So Megan's in the book, and there's so many people are like, "Oh, Megan's my friend," and I'm like I can't even get Donnie to retweet me.
Well, I can't either. So okay. Johnny is New England. Nick is here. Dan, I'm not sure if there's any other.
Let me see. I got
maybe.
It.
None of them, no one stands out. Leah Seidman, who is an artist on DC's Teen Titans. I don't know what some of these people are, but you really you're able to get any book that we make. So that includes Ichabod 1 to 3.
Right. Sure, that's true.
Monsters and Other Scary Shit, Katrina Hates the Dead, Black Market Heroin, Pixie Dust, basically any of our books on top of volume 1 to 3. So I know people are like, well, I don't want 10 copies of third volume or even 10 copies of Cthulhu. So we try and make it so you can pick and choose your bundle if you want. They'll all come signed by at least me. Plus you get pins from the first 3 volumes. And if you want, so 160, I think is 10 books. And then 320 is 20 books. And if you want some other number of bundle, like please message me and I'm happy to make any bundle that you would like for retailers or do whatever I can do. We have right now 9 books in our stable, and that does not include Black Market Heroine because it's a soft cover, and everything is hardcover that we do except for Black Market Heroine in comics.
And Danny, I will say this too for you. So Danny's store is very D&D heavy. There's a big turnover between those fan bases, as we've seen with Cthulhu Invades. Like that fan base loves Cthulhu. Like role-playing people love Cthulhu. So there are people who will jump over. So I'll take a look now. Yeah, I would definitely get a retail tier, and I'll come in to do a signing I'll bring Heather and me, and we can do a Cthulhu Invade signing for 1 and 2. We'd be happy to do it for you.
Awesome. Yeah, I love
and
her.
Emily. Emily's here too. Emily did the art for that.
Yeah, I mean it's really cool to see people have taken our the books, both Monsters and Ichabod, and used them as bestiaries for like their stories. It's been a really cool. That part of it's been really cool. I haven't had the pleasure of like seeing anyone, like pictures of anyone doing that, but they've told me like they bought the book and they're like, I'm using this as a bestiary, which I think is really cool.
But just one more thing to help Danny, the quality of my books, like Russell kind of set the standard of what the quality of my books needed to be. like this is the quality of it. We do things, Russell and I do things very differently storytelling wise, but I would say our quality is the same, stuff in the hardcover editions, at least,
Yeah, I think that Walter Ostley. Oh, Walter's in volume 1.
Oh, yeah, there you go. So that would
And
be
volume
the
2.
3. That would be the 3 you would need. So you would have, if you just, again, I recommend Ichabod. I think Ichabod would sell. I think you have the heroin one. What's it called?
Yes, Black Market Heroine.
That would be a good one. I could actually even bring you that on Saturday, Danny, if you want to check it out. Or these Cthulhu ones. I've got volume 1 and 2 at home.
So Walter set the standard for me when he showed me that when he did Shiver Bureau, and I use his printer, and so then I'm like, I'm just going to do this for everything. And like Walter hates hardcover because they're very heavy. And like, I'm like all in. I went all in on hardcover. So like kind of got known as like the hardcover person. But I really do take pride in our, in both the interior and exterior quality of the books. I'm just like, I want them to feel like an object. Like you do too, but like I want them to feel like an object of worth when they come out of the thing.
So here is the arc, the theme, all that stuff.
The pin, that's the pin that you get. Yeah,
that's the
Christian Gossett. Oh, Christian Gossett. So Christian Gossett did the Red Star. If you've been doing comics since the early 2000s, you probably remember the saga of the Red Star.
Yep.
This is his last volume was his first comic work. And so this is his second comic work since then. James Maddox is a very popular webtoon, which is The Secret. Andrea Rosales just won the Milestone Initiative.
You're
there.
Right.
Mary Bellamy works for My Little Pony. That's Trina Robbins' story. Nathan Luth.
And I love that. This is the last Eddie story, right?
I don't know if it's the last one. It was finished posthumously. So that's, I mean, he may have had another one in another anthology that I don't know about. But as far as I know, that's the last of his stories, which was very hard to do. You can see it's people like our books.
Yeah.
They're agnostic. Sometimes they're agnostic on me, but they love our books. all of
No,
our
I
pins.
think this book, and you know, one of the people who goes to their store on the regular is a WWE referee because they have NXT
nice.
right there. They're actually like right next to NXT. Eric, who does a lot of wrestling stuff, their store is right near NXT, pretty much.
Oh, that's awesome! I love it. It's that's great. Yeah, I'm definitely very thrilled that we were able to do a battle royale story. I wanted it to be Royal Rumble, but like I just knew that was not possible.
Right.
Justin Peniston, that's Camry from Black Market Heroin. Kelsey is amazing. Kelsey Jo Silva, she's coming back again. Nick Doan and Aaron did a really cool story. D Parson has several actually comic strips and newspapers around the country. Claire and Angela, JD, that's from his very popular novel series. It's his first time as a comic. Kathleen, Nick did Nick did a bunch of work for like for Source Point.
And he did did your Wicked Witch story.
He did the Wicked Witch story. He designed our logo. I have his art on my arm. Jamie Primack, wonderful artist.
Yep, he came into the referee. Okay, I was I was like, Walter came in, and Jamie, you stole Jamie from me. You know, I was the first person to get Jamie to break her binary star, and you grabbed her, which is smart.
She's great. She's
so good.
She's so good. Shannon is back. Fabrice co-created.
And we get her to do color, which is awesome because she's really good at color. You wouldn't know if you read Binary Star, but
yeah, it's. I was wondering if she would do it, but like, because I literally reached out to her and was like, please do this book. Please submit to this book. That's Johnny C. Johnny C. and Kara. Tim is the next one.
And the Yellow King. I love the Yellow King, so I love when I see it.
That one, we have 2 pieces of original art now in our store, and the add-ons from this one, the $100 each.
Okay.
Katrina is amazing. She's one of my favorite artists. Nick, and then finally Nick, Frank, and then finally David Pepos' story with Man House. She's just like I mean, I think that the art, I don't know if the art increases exponentially each time. It doesn't fit. Like I felt that way for the first between Monsters and Cthulhu, but like we just have such a high bar for art, and we've been able to do just so much. Like the art's just been so cool for the whole series. I really think that's like quite consistently good. It has less of an indie feel now.
Right.
The last 2 volumes have felt less and less like a small indie book. We've moved to more, much more. I feel like the book has a much more like clean, polished, like professional artist like feel, not like an indie. Like kind of like there's some stories in here that like are very super indie, like the last 2 that passed, which I love, but like I think it has been a little bit more like I don't want to say professional art focused because indie art is also professional art, but like more mainstream. I feel like it's more like mainstream like art that you see in the books now than you did like. I think every book kind of moves us a little bit more towards the mainstream of what's in like the zeitgeist of like what a comic book store would like would like.
I think it goes both ways. I think the other way is a lot of our indie guys who have been doing this 5-6 years are starting to get up there and changing what it looks like. So it's kind of balancing out because a lot of the guys coming out, you know, a lot of them look very similar, you know, coming up. Which one of the things I love about your book. Which is definitely like these different styles. So like Angela Otley style, like nobody draws like her. There's nobody who does stuff like her. You know,
she is the main reason why I don't hire a letterer to do everything because I just don't. I'm like, what's the point of doing like hiring a letterer? Because like I'm just gonna be like, it can't be consistent because Angela's art is like so differently. So like I like she and a couple of others are like, why I don't hire someone like Jerome to do all of them.
Sure,
So
yeah.
like, the art is so iconic to like the piece. The lettering is so iconic to the piece as a whole that like I would have to have Angela do this whole thing, and then it's not going to look the same anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we can back this. Everybody can back it. We have how many days left? We got like 2 weeks, right? 3 weeks?
3 weeks. It's a
3
very
weeks.
long campaign, but if you get in now, you get access to everything else we unlock along the way. And we're going to make an announcement tomorrow morning in our update about the collaboration with Travis.
Well, I mean, we could talk about that now. I can bring that image up if you give me just
Sure.
a second. You want to do that? So, if you guys know me, Russ and I have been friends for a while, and we decided to collaborate on stuff. And I don't do these very often. I don't know if you do, Russell, but I don't do these partnerships very, very much. I don't.
I do a lot of swaps, but I do not do a lot of partnerships like this.
Yeah,
We did one with Elsewhere, and that's the only other one we've done this year. And that's because Angela and I were both in that book. And so
Right. Hold on. Let me find it. It is right here. So let's show this. Loading, it's loading, it's loading. It's loading. I don't know why a small JPEG is loading so much. All right. So this is what we're doing. If you back both of our books, you will get this really cool front and back bookmark. So it'll be really, really cool. It has Cthulhu on Wonderland on one side and Cthulhu's Hard to Spell on one side. We're not going to be cheap. It's going to be a nice quality bookmark. So
yeah, this is really great. Jerome did a really great job pulling this image out because it was not easy to make this. I tried myself and finally I was like, here, Jerome, have an art, and then good luck. And
good luck.
He really knocked it out of the park. Like, I love this image. I love the Wonderland image too.
Yeah, and I wouldn't have thought to use that Wonderland image, which is really, really good because I think it fits. I think thematically it's fun. It kind of shows what's happening in Wonderland, So you'll get this bookmark as a flip bookmark, which is great because you'll get both these. When's your release?
I don't know. Whenever the books come from China.
Oh, December. Okay. Yeah, you ship overseas, so
only for this. This is the last time I'm doing it. Likely.
It's a good idea. I just have a huge fear of it. I think it's a great idea. I think it's a great value to you and to people. Yeah,
they say it's going to bring. They say we're going to be getting the books. I don't know. I'm hoping so. I'm shipping both. This is a little bit inside baseball, but I'm printing both Ichabod and Cthulhu together, so that when I do the Ichabod campaign in September, I have them both. Like, I'll be like, hey, I don't have Cthulhu yet, but like I'm going to get them both together. Right. So hopefully that will like allow me to fulfill both books, maybe in the time that it takes me to usually fulfill Ichabod. But it's going to be a long wait. But whenever. But like you're probably going to fulfill before I do.
Yeah, which is fine. No big deal. But we'll get all that taken care of. But thank you guys for watching. Eric, where can people find you?
In Instagram, which basically is where I am most of the time. It's the Eric Calavera, at the Eric Calavera, or in Twitter it's at Eric Calavera. So it's not really that hard. It's Calavera, Cale. I don't know how to spell it. I'm really bad at spelling in English.
Calaveras. Oh,
thank
is
you.
There an S in it?
No, there's no S at the end.
All right.
So
yeah, find him, follow his stuff. I like his art. I can't wait to read this Battle Royale story. Is that one of the ones in the preview?
Yes,
one part of it. One of the three is part of the preview.
There you go. So definitely check that out. See what I'm talking about. I've seen the pages, so I love it, but I haven't read it. I just thumbed through everything. And where can I find you, Russell?
You can go to russellnolte.com and join our mailing list. You can find me on Twitter and Facebook. Do not find me on Instagram. I'm Russell Writes Things. I'm just going to tell you because people keep finding me. But like, I only have Instagram to talk to people like Eric who are nowhere else, and my tattoo artist. It's the only reason I have it. I never intend to post there. But I feel bad because people keep following me there, and I'm like, I'm never gonna post here. But you're welcome to watch me post nothing. I'll have the easiest Instagram feed to follow because it's like literally nothing except DMs with my tattoo artist and other artists who aren't anywhere else.
Right,
But
right.
you can find me on Twitter and Facebook at Russell Nolte and russellnolte.com. You can find links to all of the books that I've been part of in the past. Yeah.
And for me, find us here tomorrow. Tomorrow at 10 p.m., we're going to do part 2 of this, which is the Cthulhu Invades Wonderland launch party. We're going to have a lot of fun. I'm going to have several of the creators. I think like 10 to 15 are signed up. So it's going to be really, really cool. So not only are we going to talk about Cthulhu Invades Wonderland, we're going to talk about all this project. I'm sure we'll talk about Cthulhu's Hard to Spell tomorrow because we have some of the same creators on both. So make sure you come and hang out tomorrow for St. Paddy's Day. I'm going to dress to the nines for St. Paddy's Day. I'm going to have some more Guinness. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a great night tomorrow. So come spend your St. Paddy's Day with me. Hang out. You know, you got to go to work on Friday anyway. So don't go out. Don't get yourself in trouble. Hang out with us. It'll be a good time. So that is it. We appreciate you guys. I'm going to do the video, and we will see you guys all later. Hang up a minute, Russell, after.
Thank you.